So this, I'm just going to continue to put out videos of the survey data I have of trout streams, and I have survey data for like 15 or 20 different counties in Wisconsin. So this week I'm going to do it on Columbia County trout streams. I think there's like 12 or 14 streams in Columbia County. I have the ones that have been surveyed recently. It's partially in the driftless area and partially not in the driftless area. The eastern part of the county is all glaciated area, where the western part of the county is driftless area, and the Ice Age Trail goes through the middle of it. So these streams are definitely different than some of the streams from other counties, and the geology is different. But there's still trout in the stream. There's still quite a few trout in the streams. So Bohlman Branch is one of the streams. It's in the southern part of Columbia County. There's one little area to fish it, which is probably only a couple hundred yards long. And then there's a couple bridges where you can get to it. A lot of it's pretty brushy and growing over. And a lot of the land along it is private. But it has quite a few brown trout in the one location where they sample it. And this one survey caught a lot of brook trout, and I've only caught stock brook trout that were like 10, 12 inches long, but it almost looked like in the survey there might have been a little natural reproduction in brook trout. But there's quite a few brown trout in it. The next stream I have I'm presenting data from is Spring Creek. It is you primarily catch brown trout out of it. This is my home creek. They catch some decent sized brown trout up to the high teens. The biggest one I think I've caught out of is like 19 and a half or 20 inches long. There's a lot of mid-sized trout. This definitely isn't the worst stream size wise. It doesn't have the highest numbers, but it has fairly decent numbers of trout. And they stock it annually with rainbow trout, and they occasionally stock some broodstock brook trout in it, which are Bohlman Branch flows into this creek. So, and that creek was colder than this creek, because the top of this creek starts in a marsh, and the marsh has a lot of beaver dams and can get warm in the summer. But anyways, this is a good creek. I've caught probably thousands of trout from it, so it's worthwhile trying. And there's quite a bit of public land along this creek. I have never tried fishing Duck Creek before. At the one location in the survey, they caught a whole bunch of brown trout and some good sized ones. And I think they must stock it somewhere with rainbow trout. These other surveys on here didn't catch that many trout though, so I don't know what it's like. I think there's a few areas of public land along it, but I'm really not sure. I have never been there before other than crossed one of the bridges over the lower part of it. But I'd try it if I was still living in Columbia County. Another stream in Columbia County is Rowley Creek. This stream is entirely in the driftless area. Spring Creek, which I previously mentioned, like starts in the driftless area, but then it flows into glacial till. This creek stream is on the other side of the Wisconsin River as most of Columbia County, though. And this stream has brook and brown trout in it. These surveys found primarily brook trout, but this is also on the upwards part of the stream where it's smaller, where they did the surveys. I fished and I caught brook trout and brown trout. I'm not sure how big they are, but I don't think there's much for public land on the stream, and you have to wade from bridges. I only found one little chunk of public land on it, but I could be wrong. Rowley Creek is probably the best trout stream, not for anyways from the surveys and numbers wise in this county. I fished it a fair amount of times. It seems to fish good some days, but not others. it gets really clear in the summertime and the fish can be difficult to catch, and it gets pretty weedy in some of the stretches too in the summertime. But I have done really well on brown trout there at times. I don't know. I've got some good sized fish out of there too, although these surveys show that it has a lot of small to mid-sized fish. But there's definitely some larger fish in there too. I don't know. I haven't caught any monsters out of there though. Rocky Run is another stream in Columbia County. And similar to Duck Creek and Rowan Creek, which were just previously mentioned, these streams are not actually in the driftless area. They're in glacial till and outwash. So they're different how like what their geology is. And this creek has some rocks in it, and it has like a big area of tag alders along the edge of the stream, and it can be really difficult to hike into and hike up and down, if I recall. I know that I've every time I fished the stream, I think I've caught like 3 or 4 or 5 fish. Like I haven't done amazing. And after looking at these surveys, I see that there's some fish, but if you compare these to other surveys in the videos I'll post, the numbers aren't that high. And the size is just average or below average. I could average it across all the surveys to see if it's average, but anyways, there's trout in there. You can catch trout. If I remember right, there's a lot of brush you need to walk through. And there's a couple good sized chunks of public land along it though. Prentice Creek or Derwent's Glen Creek is an additional creek that is in Columbia County. This stream is entirely in the driftless area, and it kind of is pretty steep and has a lot of rocky areas from what I've seen. I've only fished it in like 2 spots, and it's not that large of a stream, but I really don't think there's any actual public land on it, and you just have to get on in by a bridge and wade up and down it. I did catch a few brook trout. The surveys of it have a lot of brook trout, but they're not very big. But there's like a church camp on the creek. An additional creek in Columbia County is Hinkson Creek. This creek flows into Rowley Creek. There's a public land along it to fish. They removed a bunch of brush from the one chunk of public land. It used to be extremely brushy to fish this one chunk, but then they cleared it out, so I'm sure it's been getting fished more. But this stream has a lot of brook trout and a lot of brown trout in it. I think last time I fished it, last time I fished it and did well, I caught like half brook trout and half brown trout, but it used to be you catch like 90% of brook trout out of there like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. But this stream is a solid stream to fish too. It's not the largest creek though, but it holds fish. Jennings Creek is the final creek I'm going to talk about in this video. And I have never fished it before. It looks like it has a few to some brook trout and some brown trout. They did catch a few decent sized brown trout in the survey. I'd have no idea what it's like. I think there's a fishery area on the stream, but I could be completely wrong. And it looks like they also stocked it with rainbow trout. And I'm pretty sure the stream flows into Duck Creek. Anyways, that'll be it for this video on Columbia County trout streams. I hope you learned something from it. I'm sorry if I don't interpret the data very much. You can look at it if you're curious about it. But that'll be it for this video.